Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. So Dune Part 2 is about to come out, so it's time for us to recap Part 1 and tell you everything you need to know about Dune before you see Dune 2. Now, it's been a while since Part 1 came out, and it's an amazing movie, but it was also very dense with lots of characters, world building, and very little exposition. So you may have a lot of questions like what's the deal with Paul's visions, the prophecy, the spice, the sandworms, and everything else. Let's do it. Cue Dune Lady. And guys, to celebrate the return of Dune, we have this awesome Spice Krispies t-shirt for sale at our merch store, ScreenCrushMerch.com, where we design all the merch ourselves. I love this shirt. Like, look at the little details here. You can see Snap, Crackle, and Pop now look like the Fremen. The cereal is made from toasted spice, and of course, the spice must flow. Shopping our merch store is the best way for you to directly support our channel so we can keep making videos like this one. The store link is below. So, back to Dune. Now, the first movie was an adaptation of the first half of Frank Herbert's masterpiece, and I can't wait to see what Denis Villeneuve is cooking up in Part 2. Dune takes place 20,000 years in the future, where the universe is ruled by the Imperium. The Emperor is Shaddam IV of House Carino. Now, the Empire is divided into many great houses.
Oh, like in Game of Thrones.
Exactly, it's Game of Thrones in space, with sandworms instead of dragons. There's the good house, Atreides, and the bad house, the Harkonnens. They have an ancient, bloody feud. Basically, they're the Starks and the Lannisters. About 10,000 years before Part 1, AI was banned after humanity destroyed all their robots and computers.
Why would they do that?
Well, mankind wanted to end their dependency on machines so that they could evolve themselves to be better than any computer or technology. One problem though, no computers made faster than light space travel nearly impossible. And this is why the Empire needed a substance called the spice melange.
Oh, so what's that? Space oil? They put sparkly sand in their ships or something?
No, it's a narcotic that expands a person's consciousness and awareness. It also prolongs life and turns your eyes blue.
Whatever, man, just keep bringing me that.
And for some, it even gives visions of the past and the future. Basically, consuming spice makes you force sensitive like in Star Wars.
Hey, Person, I have a question.
Aw, Doug, you look so cute in your teddy bear costume. Let me journal that. This is Doug in his teddy bear costume to celebrate the opening of Dune Part 2.
Hey, what are you doing there?
Oh, you know, man, I keep a catalog of everything you do, say, and wear for my journal.
You keep a journal about me?
Yeah, dude, I've been journaling for years and for a lot of different reasons. For example, about 12 years ago, I was depressed all the time, and journaling helped me work my way through it and work through my problems. I am actually a big believer in journaling as a way to maintain your mental health, or to keep track of your new workout routines, or just to catalog your kids, or catalog every movie you've ever seen in the theater, which I've actually been doing with this list.
Jeez, what do you have, like 5 different notebooks for all these journals?
No, sir, because I've been using the premium features on Day One Journal, by far one of my favorite sponsors we've ever had on this channel. Guys, Day One Journaling is great because in addition to typing out your journals, you can also upload media like photos and videos of the dogs and cats in your life. But what I really love about Day One Journal, especially over paper journals, is the search function. It's an easy way to search your entries and find every mention of someone or even a movie. They also offer privacy with end-to-end encryption so you know that your personal thoughts will stay private. Journaling is also a great way to help you condition yourself to new habits. Like for instance, maybe you want to start keeping workout logs or to-do lists. Day One has a ton of templates to help make journaling simple. And the premium features like speech to text and unlimited devices make this app so much easier than using a doc program or paper journals that you might have used before. Again, if you want to try Day One Premium, we have an offer exclusive to ScreenCrush fans. Go to dayoneapp.com/ScreenCrush and use the code ScreenCrush to unlock a 2-month free trial of Day One Premium. That's DAYONE app.com/ScreenCrush to see why it's the #1 journaling app out there. Clicking this link not only helps to support our channel, but I think you're really going to love the app too. Again, click the link below and use the code ScreenCrush to unlock a 2-month free trial of Day One Premium. Now, back to what I was saying. The spice is fundamental for space travel. The ships fold space-time, but the navigators of the Spacing Guild use the spice to find routes throughout the stars.
So everyone in Dune is really high on magic space glitter. Got it.
More or less, yes. So without the spice, the Empire will fall. So
the spice must flow.
However, the spice is also super rare and it can only be harvested on only one planet in the entire universe, Arrakis, also known as Dune. It's a harsh and desolate desert planet. Now, Arrakis is the home of the sandworms, giant worms that roam the deserts and are highly protective of their world. Arrakis is also the home of the Fremen. They are oppressed refugees who migrated to Arrakis long ago. They adapted to the brutal environment of the desert planet, living in a kind of harmony with it. Now, spice is part of their way of life, which is why their eyes turned blue. And they have a much better understanding of this world, especially the sandworms. They can even ride them. Now, the Fremen are a very religious people. They believe in a prophecy that foretold the arrival of a messianic savior.
Oh, that's that prophecy stuff about Paul, right?
Yes, throughout Part 1, the name Lisan al-Gaib is chanted by the Fremen.
Voice from the outer world. It's their name for Messiah.
In certain scenes, they refer to Paul as the Mahdi.
They say you're the Mahdi.
So what's the difference?
It's sort of the same thing, but it's more like one leads into the other. According to the legends, Lisan al-Gaib will be an off-worlder savior and the son of a Bene Gesserit. He will join the Fremen and lead them to their freedom, thus becoming the Mahdi. But here's the thing, this prophecy is a lie. The whole myth was fabricated by the Bene Gesserit.
Oh yeah, those are the space witches, right?
Yes, that's right, space witches. The Bene Gesserit are a sisterhood of highly trained women with special mental and physical abilities. One of these powers is the voice, which allows them to command a person's mind.
Come here. Kneel. Like a Jedi mind trick.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Yeah, you know what? They are a lot like Jedi, but they're also kind of like the Sith, because they steer politics, religion, and everything else in the Empire. And they have been shaping genetics and crossbreeding bloodlines to achieve their master plan, the arrival of the Chosen One.
Oh yeah, like Anakin Skywalker.
Yes, in more ways than you think. They want to create a superhuman called the Kwisatz Haderach.
Why would they do that?
The Bene Gesserit can look into the memories of their female ancestors, meaning that they can see the past. However, the future is hidden from them. Now, a transcendent male with Bene Gesserit powers could use the ability of prescience, which will allow him to see into the past and the future, essentially becoming a bridge of space and time.
A mind powerful enough to bridge space and time.
With such power, the One will lead humanity into a better future. So this is the basis for the Fremen's myths for their savior. The Bene Gesserit planted superstitions all over the Empire so they could control others with fanatic religions.
Oh, so Paul is the one, right?
He sure is. He is the One. And this brings us to the start of part 1. The opening line of the movie is... This quote is about Paul's visions, his dreams of messages from the future, but more on this later. I'm not sure why it's spoken in the Sardaukar language, but this voice is epic, so who cares? And then we meet Chani, a Fremen who Paul has been dreaming about. Chani explains how the Harkonnens oppressed and massacred her people. For the past 80 years, House Harkonnen has controlled Arrakis, and harvesting spice made them extremely wealthy and powerful. The head of House Harkonnen is the Baron Vladimir. Due to his robust body, he needs a special harness that lets him levitate. His savage nephew is Glossu Rabin, who is overseeing spice harvesting on Arrakis. And you also need to know about the Baron's other nephew, Fade Rotha. He's going to be very important in part 2. And in David Lynch's version, he was played by none other than Sting. All his glory. The Harkonnens' operation on Arrakis abruptly ends after the Emperor gives the planet to House Atreides.
Well, why did he fire them?
Well, you see, the Emperor rules over the Imperium, but there's a very delicate power balance between all these great houses. Duke Leto Atreides has been gaining a lot of popularity among the other houses. Now, this is a major threat to the Emperor since he fears that Leto will unite them against him. On top of that, the Atreides have the best military force in the entire Empire. So the Emperor wants to wipe out the Atreides, but he has to do it in secret, otherwise the other houses will revolt against him. He charges Atreides with spice harvesting on Arrakis.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Which means they will have to relocate to an isolated and dangerous world. On Arrakis, the Harkonnens could slaughter the entire house, and the Emperor would just blame the centuries-old blood feud of these two houses. So it's a two birds with one stone kind of trap. The Emperor removes a dangerous rival, and at the same time, he weakens the position of the Harkonnens, since the other houses will be mad at them for killing all the Atreides. However, don't discount the Baron. He's far from being the Emperor's pawn. But before all this goes down, we're finally introduced to Paul Atreides on Caladan. It's the ancestral home of House Atreides. Paul has been having dreams like the one about Chani, and some of his dreams have been coming true. And then we meet the Lady Jessica. She's a Bene Gesserit, Leto's lover, and Paul's mother. Jessica trained Paul in the Way.
This is the way, like the Mandalorian way?
No, the Bene Gesserit way. Paul was basically trained to be John Wick, Batman, Anakin Skywalker, and Bran Stark all combined into a single person. Then the Emperor's emissaries arrive on Caladan, and Leto officially accepts the stewardship of Arrakis. Later, Paul meets up with Duncan Idaho, the badass swordmaster of the house and one of the finest warriors in Dune. Now, Leto is sending Duncan to Arrakis ahead of time so he can find the Fremen and create an alliance with them. And then they could have
Desert power.
Now, Paul wants to join him. He has been having dreams of Arrakis, and he even saw Duncan's death. But both Leto and Duncan refuse Paul's request because he's the future of the house. Leto explains to Paul that going to Arrakis is a trap, but perhaps, with the Fremen, they could survive. When Paul questions if he's worthy to be a duke, Leto says,
"A great man doesn't seek to lead. He's called to it." And he answers.
Afterwards, Paul trains with Gurney Halleck. He's the military leader of the house and one of the best fighters in the universe. He's very loyal to both the Duke and his son. Now, Paul dismisses the grave danger they're facing, so Gurney gets all in his face about it.
You never met Harkonnens before. I have. They're not human, they're brutal.
So what's with the shields and swords? I mean, don't they got like lasers and bullets and stuff?
Okay, so in Dune, guns are mostly useless because of shields. It's an energy field that covers a person or a ship. However, the shield isn't completely impenetrable. It needs to allow some slow-moving matter in, like air. And, you know, even in the future, people still need to breathe.
I think he's choking.
This flaw is why everybody uses swords and knives. A sword fighter needs to move with precise speed to penetrate the shield.
Man, someone's got to introduce these guys to vibranium.
Or Beskar. Anyways, it's the far future, but everybody's kind of medieval. Now, there are two other key members of House Atreides. Thufir Hawat is the Mentat. Now, Mentats are virtually mankind's replacement for thinking machines. They can process and calculate information like computers. The other character is Dr. Yua. He's the physician of the house. He was trained to diagnose diseases and injuries simply with a touch. Again, it's all about humans becoming better than computers.
R2-D2, you know better than to trust a strange computer.
Then, one night, the Reverend Mother arrives to meet Paul about his dreams.
Okay, who's she?
She is a high-ranking sister of the Bene Gesserit. She tests Paul, and he must put his hand inside a box.
That's my hand in her box?
Exactly, and inside that box is pain. The Reverend Mother suspects that Paul is the one. So the test is to determine whether Paul will break under the immense pressure he's facing or if he can control his emotions and endure the pain. Paul overcomes the pain because
Fear's the mind killer.
Paul passes the test, but he also starts having visions of the future. The reason why all the Bene Gesserit are females is because only women can survive their tests and training. So Paul surviving the test and his abilities prove that
He is the one.
However, the Reverend Mother is angry that Jessica gave birth to a boy.
Why? What's wrong with the baby boy?
Well, she was supposed to give birth to a girl. It's all part of the Bene Gesserit breeding program to create the One. Jessica went against the plan, and this makes Paul an anomaly, like Neo. Later in that scene, Paul confronts his mother about the Bene Gesserit plans and discovers that he is the One. After all this, the Atreides finally travel to Arrakis, and House Atreides knows how to make an entrance. Hit the bagpipes! When the Fremen see Paul and Jessica, they chant Lasan al-Gaib, since they believe that he is their prophesied Messiah. After they arrive in Arrakis, the capital city of Arrakis, Jessica meets a Fremen woman called Mapes, and she gives her a crysknife.
Hey, so what's so special about that knife?
Well, it's a sacred blade made from the razor-sharp teeth of a sandworm. The Fremen consider the sandworms to be gods. They call them Shai Hulud, or simply the Makers, because the worms make the spice melange. This proves that the Fremen are not some desert savages like some people think. They have a deeper understanding of this world and they know how to harness its mysteries, like riding the sandworms. When Jessica realizes the significance of the crysknife, it's a sign to the Fremen woman that their legends are coming true. And when she gives it to Jessica, it's like the Fremen accept her as one of their own. Later, Paul watches a hologram about the Fremen and he sees a small desert mouse called the Muad'Dib.
Oh, so tiny, so cute. I want one.
Sure, pal, I will get you one. Afterwards, Paul survives an assassination attempt by a tiny mosquito drone left by the Harkonnens. On the Harkonnen homeworld, the Reverend Mother meets with the Baron, and she tells him that the Emperor fully supports the eradication of the Atreides.
Well, it's his plan, so duh.
Yeah, but you know, space politics. However, the Reverend Mother demands that Paul and Jessica are spared since they're under Bene Gesserit's protection. The Baron agrees, but not really.
But Arrakis is Arrakis. And the desert takes the weak.
Back on Arrakis, Duncan returns and Leto meets with Stilgar. He's an important leader among the Fremen. Leto offers to ally with the Fremen because he wants
Desert power.
and Stilgar honors him with his spit. Now in the desert, water is life, so spit is a great honor.
Well, person, let me honor you with my...
Don't you dare. Cut to the best hype man in the universe. The Emperor sends his elite force, the Sardaukar, to help the Harkonnens kill House Atreides. Now remember, the Atreides have the best military force in the Empire, and the Harkonnens kind of suck, so they really need this assist. So Paul and Leto check on the harvesting operation, but most of their equipment was sabotaged by the Harkonnens. They're joined by Dr. Liet Kynes. She's a Fremen planetologist, and she's also an Imperial representative that oversees the transition of power on Arrakis. Before they go into the desert, Kynes checks on their still suits. These are Fremen-made suits designed to preserve every drop of bodily fluid.
Ew.
Like I said, in the desert, every drop of water counts. Kynes is surprised to see that Paul is wearing the suit exactly like the Fremen do. further proving the prophecy. In the desert, they see that a sandworm is coming for the harvesting machine. Now, the sandworms are attracted to any vibrations in the sand. This makes harvesting spice extremely hard.
So why don't they just use shields to protect their stuff?
Well, shields send the sandworms into a killing frenzy. So, because of the malfunctioning equipment, Atreides must rescue the crew themselves. But the crew don't want to abandon their spice haul, so Leto shouts,
Damn the spice! I want every man off that crawler now!
This shows Kynes that the Duke is an honorable man, unlike the Harkonnens. The second Paul steps off the aircraft, he gets blasted with spice, which immediately awakens his space magical powers, and Paul starts seeing visions of the future. And then the sandworm arrives in its full glory. Paul is so overwhelmed by the visions that he is paralyzed. Gurney saves him right before the sandworm swallows the harvesting machine. Later, Paul tells Jessica about the visions that he saw. He sees Chani again. He also hears voices who say, in another vision, he and Chani are about to kiss, but she stabs him. Then he sees Jessica with blue eyes, and that means it's the future, where she's with the Fremen. And Paul knows that she is pregnant, and even sees her with a baby. So Jessica freaks out about Paul's visions, and Leto understands that they're pretty much doomed. Because later that night, the Harkonnens attack. Dr. Yua betrayed them.
Traitor!
He lowers the shields and disables the communications.
But why did he betray them?
Because his wife was taken by the Harkonnens and they are torturing her. The Doctor made a deal with the Baron. In exchange for her life, he betrayed the Atreides. Right before the invasion begins, Leto wakes up in the night, sensing that something is wrong. The Doctor shoots him with a paralyzing dart, and then he replaces Leto's tooth with an implant. If he bites down on it, it will release poison. You see, the Doctor wants Leto to kill the Baron. So then the Harkonnens and the Sardaukar attack and start killing everyone. They blow up all the ships, and we get this freaking epic moment that I just cannot get enough of. Gurney Halleck leads the Atreides troops into battle. Duncan cuts through a bunch of Harkonnens and the Sardaukar, and he escapes from the city. Paul and Jessica are taken prisoner by the Harkonnens, and they plan to leave them to die in the desert. Paul and Jessica use their abilities to take them out. Kill him! But then they are stranded in the desert. Back in Arrakis, the Baron captured Leto. He kills the Doctor after telling him that his wife is already dead.
Even to a guy like me, that's cold.
But then Leto bites down on his fake tooth and releases the poison. Everyone in the room dies except the Baron, who was just barely saved by his shield. Back in the desert, Paul and Jessica are safe inside a tent left to them by the Doctor. He also left them supplies and Leto's ring, which confirms that he is dead. While they mourn him, Paul is exposed to the spice again and he starts seeing visions. He sees Chani again as she watches a battlefield. A future version of Paul, with blue eyes, leads the Fremen against the Imperial forces. And then the visions get really dark since Paul realizes that he is leading the Fremen into a universe-spanning holy war.
But why?
Well, Paul wants to avenge his father's death, so he plans to use the Fremen as his army. But the Fremen see him as their space Jesus, so they will follow him with pure fanaticism and wage a religious crusade in his name. So naturally, he freaks out about this.
You did this to me! You Bene Gesserit made me a freak!
Later, Duncan finds Paul and Jessica and takes them to Kynes and the Fremen. Kynes has been sworn by the Emperor to ignore the Atreides massacre. However, she decides to help Paul and Jessica anyways. Paul suggests that they could end the conflict by him marrying the Emperor's daughter. Now, this plan is hopeless, of course, but what's important here is that Paul is trying to reshape his destiny, to veer away from the future that he saw. Once Paul understands that he must join the Fremen, he uses their superstition to convince Kynes to help them find the rest of her people.
I've seen your dream. As Emperor Dr. Kynes, I can make a paradise of Arrakis with a wave of my hand.
Then the Sardaukar attack. Duncan holds them off so that the others can escape. He gives them hell, but eventually, even the great Duncan Idaho falls. And he dies just like Paul saw in his dreams. Paul and Jessica escape by air, while Kynes goes on her own and summons a sandworm with a thumper. But then she's stabbed by the Sardaukar. Joke's on them though, because the sandworm arrives and swallows them all. Paul and Jessica fly into a storm to escape their pursuers. Now Paul has a trust in the Force kind of moment. He lets the storm guide him. And he gets visions again. And this is where the visions get really weird. Paul sees Jamis, a Fremen, who's teaching him about the ways of the desert. But this is the same Fremen that Paul will have to fight and kill at the end of the film.
So what is it? The future, the past? These visions are so confusing.
Okay, so Paul's powers allow him to see the future, but not just one future. He sees many possible futures all at once.
Always in motion is the future.
It's like his mind is calculating countless branching paths that can converge on certain outcomes. Think of it like when Doctor Strange used the Time Stone in Infinity War. It all goes back to what Duncan said at the start of the movie.
Dreams make good stories, but everything important happens when we're awake, because that's when we make things happen.
The future is not set in stone. Paul's decisions will shape what is going to happen. However, the question is whether or not he will be trapped in his own paradox, where he makes decisions based on his visions and not based on the present reality. The Baron takes a dip in Dune's version of the Bacta-tank, and after Robin tells him that Paul and Jessica died in the storm, the Baron goes all Palpatine.
Kill them all. Wipe them out. All of them.
Paul and Jessica crash in the desert, and they make their way toward the Fremen. To not get eaten by worms, they do the totally necessary and not at all awkward sand walk. But then a sandworm chases them and Paul stands face to face with it. And it's almost like the sandworm senses that he's a special boy. Think of it like the time when Jon Snow met Drogon and the dragon senses that he is a Targaryen.
Spoilers!
Dude, come on, the show ended 5 years ago. R+L=J, everybody knows that. Anyways, the sandworm is sent away when a nearby thumper is activated by Jamis, and then the Fremen ambush them. And they're led by Stilgar, the Fremen that Paul met earlier. Jessica uses the weirding way to take him down easily, proving that she is a worthy fighter. And then Paul meets the girl from his dreams, Chani. And our boy gets real awkward. Though I guess he did dream about committing a holy war with her, so yeah, I mean, I would get weird too. Stilgar allows Paul and Jessica to join them, but one of the Fremen is super hostile towards them. And it's Jamis, the Fremen Paul saw in his visions. Paul must face Jamis in a duel. Before the duel, Chani gives Paul her Chris knife, and it seems to be the same blade that he keeps seeing in his visions.
I thought I saw my death, only it wasn't. I know a knife is important. Someone will hand me a blade.
Paul has another vision, seeing himself getting killed by Jamis. Once again, the vision might show Paul many possible futures, or it might be something symbolic, because the voices in the vision say,
All Atreides must die for Kwisatz Haderach to rise.
So that means that Paul must shed his Atreides birthright, essentially kill that part of him and be reborn as the One. Paul's training allows him to best Jamis, although he doesn't want to kill the man. However, this duel is to the death, and Paul has no choice but to take Jamis' life. After this, the Fremen accept him as one of their own. So, in the end, Paul's visions about Jamis teaching him are more symbolic in their nature. Jamis does show him the ways of the desert because his death puts Paul on the path to becoming one of the Fremen. Jessica wants to get herself and Paul back to Caladan. However, Paul decides that they must join the Fremen so that they can use their
Desert power.
But Paul knows that this decision means that he is becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. The Fremen believe him to be their messianic savior, and by joining them, he sets into motion the future from his visions, the one with the Holy War.
So you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a sandworm.
You have no idea. Paul and Chani share a moment, and the movie ends with the Fremen riding a sandworm into the sunset.
This is only the beginning.
Okay, person, I understand Dune now. All this happens because a bunch of humans killed other robots and got real high on magic space dust.
Actually, yeah, that's one way of looking at it. So guys, that's everything you need to know before watching Dune Part 2. Big shout out to the writer of this video, Mr. Pavel T. You can find his links below. Guys, did we miss anything? If you have any thoughts on the movie, how excited are you? Let us know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.